And new information on Tuesday's deadly fire in Mayfield Heights. Officials tell us it was intentionally set. 41-year-old Rebecca Pletnewski and her 8-year-old daughter Olivia Schneider were killed in the blaze. The fire chief says a flammable substance was found inside the home and samples were sent to Columbus for testing. Police are also questioning an acquaintance of Pletnewski. The Blue Ribbon Arson Committee is also offering a reward of up to $5,000 for any information leading to an arrest and conviction.
An arson investigation turned murder mystery in one Cleveland suburb.
Yeah, the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner says a mom who was stabbed to death before the fire was set at her home. That blaze eventually took the life of her daughter. Brian Duffy now live in the newsroom with where the investigation stands right now, Brian.
Well, guys, sadly, the medical examiner findings are not that big of a surprise, especially when you consider that investigators made the call yesterday that they suspected arson. But the sheer brutality involved, the murder of a young mom of 2 and heartlessly setting fire to a home with an 8-year-old girl inside, is just hard to comprehend. A young mom, Rebecca Pletnewski, her 8-year-old daughter, Olivia Schneider, lost to the world. And now the sense of loss, tragedy, and grief is tinged with anger. This was cold-blooded, heartless murder. The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner reports that Pletnewski was killed before the fire was set in her Longwood Avenue home. She died from cervical compression with sharp force injuries. She was stabbed. The ME ruled her death a homicide. Olivia Schneider's death was also ruled a homicide. She died at Hillcrest Hospital from smoke inhalation. As the case turns now to a murder investigation, there are multiple questions that need answers. Did Rebecca Pletnewski file any complaints with police that she was being stalked or threatened? That question tied to this one. Were Mayfield Heights police ever called to the home before the fatal fire? Hours after the fire, investigators went into the home next door and eventually removed multiple large paper bags. What is the significance of those items? And what is the status of the person that Mayfield Heights police had in custody and questioned yesterday afternoon? Police say they are aggressively investigating the double murder, but they are not providing any answers. Chief Fred Bittner told us, "We have nobody in custody at this time and continue our investigation. I cannot provide any investigative detail at this time." Rebecca Pletnewski worked as a critical care nurse at university hospitals. Her coworkers in a statement told us everyone in the hospital knew, loved, and respected her as a nurse, a mom, and as a friend. She lit up a room, they said, whenever she walked in. In the newsroom, Brian Duffy, Cleveland.
The murder of a
19 News.
mother and daughter. Paul Orlowski joins us live with details on the person police charged in this case. Paul?
Well, Ramona, actually police made the arrest on Friday afternoon, but they kept that news under wraps until today, and when formal charges were actually made, interestingly, on the day that Rebecca Pletnewski and her 8-year-old daughter, Olivia Schneider, were buried. And the man who was arrested was somebody we saw first thing after this murder.
The person we arrested was Dominique Swoops, and he was the actual initial person we had taken into custody on Tuesday morning.
Next door neighbor.
The next door neighbor, yes.
Dominique Swoops had been a suspect from the very beginning. He was taken into custody quickly, but then was released because, other than suspicions, police had no evidence against him. But detectives kept digging. Swoops gave them permission to search his home, as well as his cell phone. His mother allowed a search of the entire house. Police found enough evidence to make the arrest. No one came to the door at Swope's home this afternoon. He has no criminal record, and police had never been called to Pletnewski's home about any complaints about him. But she was concerned.
That he had been making advances or unwanted advances on Rebecca, and over the period of the 7 months he's approximately lived there, and a lot of her family friends knew that she was concerned about him.
Suspect was stalking the victim for months, and Rebecca Pletnewski told family and friends she was worried about him. Police arrested 27-year-old Dominique Swoops Friday. Swoops charged today with 2 counts of aggravated murder and aggravated arson for the deaths of 41-year-old Rebecca and her 8-year-old daughter Olivia Schneider. Mayfield Heights police first took Swoops into custody for questioning Tuesday, but police say they released him that night before collecting additional evidence against him. Investigators say Swopes stabbed Rebecca, then set fire to her Longwood Drive home early Tuesday, killing her daughter who was upstairs. Rebecca's family told investigators her neighbor had been stalking her in person and on social media.
He became a subject of interest that day because what family and friends had told us that she had warned, Rebecca had warned them or told them of instances of potentially stalking by the neighbor, and so he became our primary suspect at the time. After we talked to the family, who do you think could do something like this? And that was the first name that came up.
Funerals for the victims were held today, and a candlelight vigil is planned here on Thursday evening. Meanwhile, Swopes is expected to be arraigned tomorrow morning.
In jail, his bond set at $5 million in the murders of his next-door neighbors. The 27-year-old making his first appearance in Lyndhurst Municipal Court this afternoon on aggravated murder and arson charges. The courtroom packed with family and friends of the victims. Investigators say Swopes stabbed 41-year-old Rebecca Pletnewski, then set fire to her home last Tuesday, killing her 8-year-old daughter, Olivia. Police took Swopes in for questioning the day of the murders before arresting him Friday at the restaurant where he worked. Investigators say Swopes had been stalking Rebecca for months. He's also now been charged with receiving stolen property. Police say he had 4 of Rebecca's rings.
Do you understand the nature of the charges against you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand the potential punishments?
Yes, sir.